Greetings, fellow space travelers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Nobita Knows It All. Today we are going to be installing a copy of Windows NT Workstation version 4.0 to a Dell LR series 667 MHz OEM PC with 512 megabytes of RAM, which is just what the doctor ordered for Windows NT Workstation. We're going to take this computer and we're going to network it using an Xfinity router that I conveniently found next to the dumpster. I don't use it as a modem, I just use it as a 4-port router, and it also makes a handy dandy USB charger. And I have that in turn networked to my Windows 7 Home Premium PC. So we're going to take this Windows NT Workstation and we're going to network it to my Windows 7 machine. Okay, we're ready to get started with our installation of Windows NT Workstation. We're going to go with this installation disk, which I got off of eBay for I think around 12 bucks. It's the OEM CD that was distributed with a Dell installation, which is what this computer is. But you'll notice that when we get this installed that it will not install any of the device drivers, like for the sound card or the video card or the network interface card. So that being said, let's start her up. And the first order of business is that we're going to have to go to BIOS and we have to change the boot sequence, because we're going to boot right from the CD. It did come with 3 floppy disks, but when I put them in, my floppy disk drive could not read it. So, but Windows, Microsoft, they actually made the CD, installation CD, bootable. So we're going to change this sequence to the Atapi CD-ROM. We're going to press F10 to save. And before we exit, we're going to put in the CD for Windows NT. And click yes. And here's your Dell splash screen. Now I do have the device drivers for all of the peripherals, for the video card, the sound card, and the network interface card. If you go to Dell.com under support, you will still find the Windows NT drivers today, a quarter of the way into the 21st century. So I got all of those, and so obviously we're going to install the operating system first, and then after that we're going to install the device drivers. Now it's important to know that do not install any service packs before you install the device drivers. If you do that, you're going to have service starting problems. You're going to get errors on boot. So it's important to get all of the drivers up and working. So now you'll see we're starting the setup. It's reading from the CD, it's loading all the controllers and the adapters. And ironically, it's got that wonderful blue screen that Windows 98 is so good at displaying. Okay, here we go. So discovered my one system processor, 511 megs of memory, build 1381. So hopefully this will go off without a hitch. Okay, welcome to setup. So I'm just going to hit enter to continue. Okay, I'm not going to specify any additional devices. I'm going to hit enter for continue. And then it's found that I have a very large hard drive, but I'm just going to say yes to that. Page down, here's the licensing agreement. and for some reason they make you press F8 to agree. And there's all the list of my hardware. The above list does match my computer. So we have two partitions here. One looks like it's for Windows 95, so I'm going to press D to delete that partition. I'm going to hit enter to continue. I'm going to hit L for delete. Now I got unpartitioned space, so I'm going to create a partition. I'm going to hit C. Now I'd like to use the full 8 gigabytes, which is half of what the capacity of my hard drive is, but I guess that's all Windows NT can see. So I'm gonna, when I hit enter to create this, the maximum amount it'll allow, I'm gonna hit enter to install, and I'm gonna format it with the NTFS file system, and this is where I get the no-no. So the setup cannot format the partition because it is too large. You must return to the previous screen and create a smaller partition. So I'm going to hit enter to continue. We're going to go to the previous screen. We're going to hit enter install. Oop. Actually, we're going to have to escape that. And enter it, install. Why am I going in circles here? Alright, we're going to have to delete the partition. Alright, unpartitioned space. So we're going to go C, create partition. Alright, so now we're back to that screen. Now, through fiddling around with previous failed installs, I have discovered that Windows NT will only let me create a partition that is 4 gigabytes or less. So we're going to go with 4 gigabytes. And I'll enter to create, and I go enter install. We're going to do NTFS file system, and now we're going to get to the formatting screen. So it did let me do that. Now while we're doing this formatting, I'm just going to talk a word about peripherals and what this Dell LR series system cost back in the year 2000. The equipment that I'm using right now, it has your regular PS2 keyboard, which is newer. I also have a optical mouse, and it does support, Windows NT does support optical mouse. It does not support the thumb wheel. I also have a ViewSonic. This monitor in the year 2000 cost $1,000, and the PC itself, the Dell Tower, it probably cost maybe $1,500, because at the time it was state-of-the-art, because 512 megabytes is a lot back then of memory, and the 667 megahertz processor was pretty robust. So this system was really state-of-the-art back in the year 2000. So I'm thinking that this whole system put together in the year 2000, you know, with the mouse, the monitor, keyboard, you know, the tower, I would say it would probably cost maybe between $2,500 and $3,000. So this is a great legacy system. Obviously, by today's standards, it would be obsolete. But with this installation of Windows NT Workstation, we're going to get this set up to be a power PC. It's going to be useful. It's not just going to be a computer that we're going to play with. This video is just going to go over the installation procedures for a successful installation. I'm going to make later videos that will show you how to install an Oracle instance as a service, so you can run an Oracle database. We're going to install Microsoft Office. We're going to install some developer tools such as Visual C++, Power Builder. So we're going to turn this into a real power PC, even in the year 2025. So we're getting there with the formatting. And again, I can't stress enough to make sure that even if you have your own tower box or whatever, like a generic clone PC, make sure your device drivers are installed before you install any service packs. The service pack install will install a signature that will cause the drivers not to fail or to not start as a service, especially your network interface card, and that's what this is all about. Because remember, when we get this all set up on the network, we're going to be talking my Windows 7 PC. Come on, my dog is getting under the tripod here. Get out of there. Because when we network to my Windows 7 PC, that's connected to a terabyte hard drive. Okay, we're going to install to WinNT. Just going to hit enter. Enter to continue, and then it's going to check drive C. So once we connect to my Windows 7 PC, that has a hard drive, a terabyte hard drive connected to it, where I store a whole bunch of software. So instead of relying on the CD player here to install software, I can just do it directly over the network, which makes life a lot easier. So now we're copying the shell files. Now, this is where trouble could potentially begin. After this completes, it's going to prompt for a reboot, and it's going to tell me to eject the CD, and then it's going to restart. And on the restart, that's where trouble could potentially begin. And I'll show you how that's going to work. Okay, so it's prompting me for a restart. So I'm going to eject the CD. I'm going to press enter, and then we're going to go back to BIOS. And we're going to return it to its original settings. We're going to just load the setup defaults. So we're going to press F9, load setup defaults, F10, save and exit. Now I'm going to put my CD back in. I'm going to save configuration changes and exit, and then we're going to boot. But now, since we have the shell installed to the hard drive, it's going to look for the shell. On the hard drive. And again, this is where trouble could potentially begin, and you'll see in a minute what could potentially happen, which I think will happen. We're going to get basically the first blue screen of death, or the BSD. And this is really kind of weird looking. I don't know what causes it, but it seems to recover from itself. Alright, so here's the normal NT Workstation startup. Throwing the OS loader in there, and this is where trouble could potentially begin. Trying to boot up. Yep, and it's happening. You see, we're getting these characters that make no sense at all. Squorkus and all this stuff. So what it's going to do, and it's unfortunate, I don't know what's causing this. You know, like 6 errors, but it's going to reboot itself. Now we're right, and we're not going to go in circles. I think this time it's going to recover. And it's going to continue with the installation sequence. Now I've seen other installation videos and this problem does not happen. So I don't know what the deal is. It could be indigenous to the Dell installation CD. I don't know. It's just one of the many peculiar quirks of Windows NT. Here we are again, and again, hopefully we're not going to go in a bunch of loops. Alright, here we are, and hopefully we'll be able to get past this. Alright, I'm seeing the hard drive activity. Come on. Alright, so we're continuing with the installation sequence. Phew! Copying some more files. And it's got that great dark Windows NT sort of setup screen, which is really neat. Alright, so we're not going to select the typical installation, we're going to go custom. Now we're going to type in some names. Steve's. And we're going to go with Steve's NT, which is pretty neat. And then, okay, we're going to type in the product ID. I tell you, I've done this so many times I should have it memorized. And next. So we're going to call this computer Steve's NT, because that's what's going to be identified on the network. And I am going to use a password because Windows NT is rock solid stable. It's impossible to get in there. We're not going to do an emergency disk. Accessibility options, we're going to deselect accessories. We don't need document templates. We're not going to use screensavers. Okay, communications. We don't need the phone dialer. We might be able to play around with chat or hyperterminal. And multimedia. Media player, sample sound, sound recorder, volume control. Yep. Alright, so we're ready to go. Now they're going to ask me to do Windows NT networking. And for now, we're going to select do not connect this computer to a network at this time. So we're going to select next and finish. And we're going to get the message. We're going to set up Windows NT to run on your computer. Now we're going to select our time zone. I am in the Mountain Time Zone. So, where are you, Mountain Time? There you are. VGA compatible display adapter. This is only going to find 16 colors in 640 by 480. So, we have to install the drivers for that. Now it's copying some files from the CD. Nice safe prompt, setting security systems, or setting security on system files, saving the configuration, And we're going to restart. And restart the computer. Okay, so now as Frank Borman would say, we're going to get down to the nitty-gritties now, and we're going to install some device drivers. Now you'll notice that we have the countdown here. We can change this setting to more like 5 seconds so you boot up a little quicker. I'm just going to hit enter to get cracking on the device drivers. First thing we're going to do is the video driver. We're going to do the two easy ones first. We're going to do the video and audio. Oh, there goes that CD again. So I think we're going to be done with all of these weird characters here. Put the drivers in there, and now you see we got the boot up screen, and it's 16 color grainy, and so no device drivers have installed, despite it's a Dell OEM CD. But like I said, you can go to Dell.com and you can still today in the year 2025 find those device drivers, which I found and I downloaded. And now we got the Welcome to Windows NT. So we're going to go to my computer, we're going to go into that CD, and there's my drivers. Video. And there it is for Windows NT, and there we go. Intel A10 video driver. And what it's going to do is it's going to run an unzip program, and it's going to open up a web page. And then it opens up Internet Explorer version 2.0. which is amazing, 1996, almost 30 years ago, and it's got that cool Microsoft logo in the corner. Unfortunately, when we upgrade to IE6, it's going to get rid of that. It's going to be a whole different looking browser. But this is what web browsers look like in the day. And this is actually designed after NCSA Mosaic, which is really totally primitive. But anyway, we're going to install it. Chipset, graphics, software, we're going to say yes to everything. And yes, we're going to restart. Everything's going to go away. Okay, video driver's installed. And we're doing a reboot. Let's just enter through that. Video for Windows NT is pretty sweet, actually. Once we boot up, we're going to have to change some settings again. That looks a little bit better, huh? Not as grainy. And now we're getting that welcome screen. We're going to deselect that. We don't need to see that again. Now we're going to change a couple of settings here using properties, settings. We're going to go 1024 by 768, and we're going to just go with as many colors as we can possibly get. And we're going to hit OK. And for some reason, I don't know why it does this, we'll take my start bar and just stretch it all the way up there, which I think is crazy. And then, just as a matter of personal preference, I'm going to auto arrange the icons. I'm going to move the recycle bin to where I like it. Oh, it's not cooperating. We don't need the inbox. I don't know why it installed it, because I didn't select it during the installation process. And I'm going to get rid of my briefcase. And for now, I'm going to get a nice little wallpaper for Windows NT 256. So now let us proceed with the audio drivers. So I got audio and sound folders. I don't know what made me do that. So we got the audio PCI, and that's the one we want. Continue. Okay. So unpacking it. Next. Finish, and now we're going to get another restart. Alright. Got the start screen. Now this video is just about getting Windows NT installed and configured. I'm going to have other videos on how to optimize Windows NT, get some settings to where you're really smoking. But for now, today we're just going to get these device drivers installed. We're going to get it to boot up where there's no startup errors. And notice how the hand does this. That's kind of goofy. Start this baby up, and with any luck, we'll hear some sound. That classic Windows NT startup sound. Okay, so now we're getting down to what astronaut Frank Borman would call the nitty-gritties. We now have to configure the Ethernet card, and that's not going to be easy. But with any luck, we'll get it done. Now these drivers are in a zip file that will automatically decompress and install it to the root of C, but it will not actually install the drivers because I haven't installed networking yet. And I wish my dog would really stop getting into these things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unpack it. Oops. Self-extractor. Okay, I'm going to unzip the C root. I'm going to unzip it. And so they have unzipped the file, so I'm going to go to the root of C, and you'll see here that I'll have the folder here, GA311 drivers. That's the Netgear installation drivers. And I believe this is the file that networking is going to look for. Now this is a full duplex card or whatever, and it'll install to a whole bunch of OSs like WinXP, WinNT40, Windows Me, Windows 98 2nd Edition, Windows 2000. But I can't just install it with an executable like I did with the video and audio. So what I'm going to have to do, and this is where things get kind of tricky, is I'm going to go to Control Panel, and I'm going to go to Network, and we're going to get rid of that awful cord sound too. So we're going to install Windows NT networking. And again, this is where things get kind of tricky. So I'm going to do wired to the network, and I'm going to select from list, and I'm going to say have disk. And this is where, you know, it just says A prompt. And so I have to change it to the path where I unzip those INF files. So it's going to be C Where's that backslash? Okay. GA311 drivers. You have to manually type in the path. And there, it found it. So it's the Netgear GA311 gigabit adapter. I'm going to click OK. And now it's there. I'm going to click Next. And we're only going to install TCP/IP. We don't need anything else. We're going to click Next. And these are the network services that they're going to install. I only really need the server, I guess. But it's not going to let me uncheck any of these, so they're going to install it no matter what. So I'm going to hit Next. And now it's going to copy some Windows NT files. So now I got to get the installation disk back in there because it doesn't know the path of that. So, you know, very, very sort of clunky, this whole installation process. Now I have to specify the path to the Windows NT installation files, which is going to be DI386. And of course it has to do that. And here's what the CD looks like when you put it in after Windows NT's been installed. And so what I'm doing is I'm typing the path to I386 right here, which is where the installation files are kept. So I'm going to hit Continue, and then it's going to go back to A again, but if I hit Continue again, for some reason it'll continue with the install process. Now it's going to prompt me for these speed duplex modes, and I have no clue what any of this stuff means. You know, early TX threshold, I mean, what's that? Okay, do you wish to use DHCP? You betcha. That's exactly what we're going to rely on to talk to Windows 7. So now we're copying some files. Okay, so now it shows all the services that we have installed, the BIOS interface server and the workstation. We're going to click Next, and now it's going to attempt to start the network. It's going to take a minute or two. Now again, this is really, really weird setup process. It's really quite a bit unlike Windows 95 or 98. So the computer is Steve's NT, and the workgroup is just going to be simply called workgroup. So we're going to finish, and then it's going to prompt me for a restart. And I'm just going to pop that CD out of there. So now we're going to do that. Now, this is where, once again, trouble might begin. After we reboot, now remember, Windows NT runs everything mostly as a service, and including networking. So if something failed during startup, I will get a dialog box during boot that at least one service or driver failed during startup, and this is a chronic Windows NT problem. And it's just such a pain in the caboose to get rid of these error messages. You have to disable a service, or you got to delete a service, because generally the stuff that fails you don't need anyway. It's going to log it in. Once again, the wonderful Windows NT sound. Oh yeah. So I'm just going to wait here for a minute for catastrophe to happen, because this is the time when I get that error message that at least one service or driver failed start or load. So I'm just trying to keep my fingers crossed here. I'm not seeing anything. And this is really, again, I can't reiterate this enough. This is why you have to install all of the drivers first before you install any service packs. Because if you install the service pack without installing the drivers, and then you try and install the networking, you're going to get a whole bunch of errors and it's going to drive you crazy. But apparently here right now, with the drivers installed in Service Pack 1, I'm not getting any errors, which is absolutely fantastic. This is the first time I've ever installed Windows NT without getting an error. Let's see if the server's up and running. Yes, it is. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Alright, so let's go to network and see what we got. So we got the computer browser, NetBIOS, RPC configuration, server, and the workstation. The only protocol we got is TCP/IP. There's our gigabit adapter, and there's your bindings for the services. So it looks like everything installed just right, which is absolutely fantabulous. So now we're going to go to Administrative Tools and look at the Event Viewer. Now the Event Viewer in Windows NT is going to be your best friend. It's going to tell you everything that happened or everything that went wrong. Now this is just a warning on DHCP. DHCP received an unknown option of 28 length of 04. I have no idea what that means, but it has no effect on the network. The network is going to be up and running just fine. I'm going to click on Network Neighborhood, and now you will see this computer, Steve's NT, and now you're also going to see Steve's PC. That's my Windows 7 PC that I've networked to through my Xfinity modem / router. So I'm going to double click here. It's going to prompt me for a password, user ID and a password. It's going to hit return, and there I am. I am in my Windows 7 laptop, and the E drive is that terabyte drive that's connected to. So now I got access to all my cool files that I can just bring on over here, or I can bring files over to there. So that is just absolutely outstanding.